I hear a lot of people that say, well, they need to earn my respect. No, I'm going to show up and I'm going to show you respect out the gate.
At the core of many of our life problems is a leadership problem.
I think we overestimate the strength of our relationship. You know where I think we do this the most, which seems odd, is within our families. Because our relationships are already established,
What are the top 3 things that leaders do not do well, or mistakes that you see over and over again?
Top 3 things that leaders do that are negative.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the big ones is we make excuses and we cast blame. I think it's really integral in our human nature to cast blame onto other people and to blame the market, to blame our team, to blame my boss, to whatever, blame people and circumstances and things for the problems that we're facing. And when we do that, we give up our control as leaders to solve them. So I think that's the first thing, is that instinct to cast blame and point fingers. The second is I think we overestimate the strength of our relationships.
I've heard you say that before. I was hoping we would get to that.
And you know where I think we do this the most, which seems odd, is within our families. I think because our relationships are already established, we just overestimate the need to nurture them and maintain them. So whether that's with your spouse or your kids or your parents, I think, again, because they're well established, we think they're solid. We think they're good. And yet we're constantly doing little withdrawals in the way we interact with the people around us, especially the people we love the most, that's putting friction within our relationship, that's creating even a small sense of resentment becomes cancer and becomes chasms between me and another person. So I think in all of our life, we're overestimating the strength of our relationship with the people that we're dealing with on a day-to-day. And we have to, as leaders, be thinking constantly, when I interact with someone, I am interacting with them with the expectation that I don't have as much leadership capital as I think I do. I'm in the red, and this interaction needs to be a positive drop in that bank to build in our leadership capital together.
How does someone go about doing that? The idea of this leadership capital.
Yeah, we teach leadership capital as this idea that you have a bank and I have a bank. And every interaction that we have is either a deposit into your bank or withdrawal. And the reason why we overestimate these relationships is because every small positive interaction that we have is a little bit of a deposit into your bank. But the one time I step on your toes, I take credit for a plan that you created, I say something that I shouldn't have, I argue, I tell you you're wrong, whatever it is, all of those things are massive withdrawals. We underestimate how big those withdrawals are. And so oftentimes we have less capital, or we're in the red when we're dealing with people. So is what we teach people to build in that relationship capital is a framework. We call it trust, listen, respect, influence, and care. And all that means is that the strength of our relationship is based on the reciprocal nature of these things. Meaning, if I want you to trust me, I have to show you first that I trust you. If I want you to listen to me, I have to first listen to you. I have to allow myself to be influenced by you. I have to show you respect. I hear a lot of people that say, well, they need to earn my respect. No, I'm going to show up and I'm going to show you respect out the gate. And if I show you respect, I have a higher likelihood of gaining your respect. And ultimately, if I want us to have a strong relationship, you need to know that I care about you, that I care about your success. I care about how you contribute to this mission. So if I can give those things first, I have a higher likelihood of gaining those things and building in that capital that we need to achieve whatever the mission is.
And I know in Echelon Front, you guys probably have very clear communication. You know where you stand with someone. I'm sure that there's a framework for that. The challenge, and I'd love for you to help me think about this differently, is that I might not know where my relationship capital is with you, and you might not know where it is with me, because the way that we relate is different.
So I love this conversation because I have this conversation particularly, not to say this is a generalization, but particularly with women who feel like sometimes their intent is not being received in the way that they want it to be. And so my feedback to them is, listen, your intent means nothing. So in this situation, if we're communicating, oftentimes that communication breakdown is based on, and you had mentioned the framework, we call it tone, tact, timing, and delivery. That's our framework. And the first part of that is tone, which a lot of people don't realize that, again, your intent when it comes to tone means nothing. So if I think we have a great relationship, I can send you an email with this positive lens, hey, Gabrielle, and I can write this email and I've got this whole positive intent. But if I stepped on your toes in a meeting last week, or I took credit for something that you were like, hey, that was supposed to be mine, or I did something in our relationship that I'm not aware of, and you have friction with me, you're going to read the same words, the same email with a totally different viewpoint through that negative lens. And we do this with clients. We will read the same email from two different perspectives, and you get to see how the same words mean two different things. What that tells me is that our ability to communicate effectively is intricately tied to our relationship. Because if we have a great relationship, you're going to assume good intent. And if we don't, you're going to read it through your lens. And the reality of this situation now is the way that you read it, how you receive that message. And if that was negative, that's now the truth of what we're dealing with. Doesn't matter what my intent was. If you received it negatively, that's now the truth and the reality of what we're dealing with, which is so much harder to overcome. So as we teach effective communication, we think about, how do you manage your tone? What can you do if you know you have friction with this person? Maybe you're not sending an email or a text where tone can be misconstrued. Maybe you're doing a better job of picking up a phone or calling someone or going and meeting them face to face, where you can control that a little bit better. The tact is like the words we're using. If you know that this may have the potential of going the wrong way, you can choose words more selectively and be more thoughtful in how you communicate. The timing. I don't want to have a conversation with my husband about something important in our lives at 10:30 at night when I'm tired and he's had a long day.
After 8 p.m., all bets are off.
Yes. We can wait in the same way that I don't want to go talk to my boss if he's preparing for a big event or a board meeting with the next day. Like, that's not the right timing. And then lastly, that delivery. How are we delivering the message? We teach our clients to deliver that through this ownership lens in how we communicate when we have things to share with people. And that really can help us deliver that message in an effective way.
And what's the framework for delivering the message?
Problem, impact, ownership, solutions. So if I'm going to have a conversation with you and we're going to discuss maybe something that you did or that I did or something that the team did to fail, I'm going to start with, hey, here's the problem. Here's the root cause of the problem. Here's the impact to you. It's not the impact to me. Hey, here's the problem we're dealing with, and I know this impacts you. Because if I can point the impact on how this is impacting you, your wall of defensiveness is likely to go down. Then I have to take ownership of it. Whatever the problem is, hey, we failed on this deadline. We didn't deliver this product to the client on time. I know that for you, that caused a lot of stress. And listen, this was my fault because I didn't better communicate with you the deadline. We didn't have some check-ins along the way. That's on me. I'm going to fix that going forward by doing X, Y, and Z. And now we get to the solutions. So that's the framework we teach for any conversation. I use it with my kids. I use it with my husband to take ownership in a meaningful way and have conversations that are likely to have more positive outcomes.
Is there a way to end conversations?
I think the way to end conversations is typically asking a really good, earnest question of the other person. For us, if I'm having a conversation and we've talked about several things that we need to make sure we're aligned on, we're going to use a tool we call the readback, which is one of my favorite tools. That is a great way for me to say, hey, really quick, can I get a readback? I'd love to understand if I missed anything of importance. You have to remember it's always a test for you and not the other person. So if I say, hey, can I get a readback? I'd love to understand. I want to make sure you understood me. That now becomes a test for you and you're likely to feel defensive. But if it's a test for me, hey, I miscommunicate a lot. We talked about a lot of things. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything of importance. Can I get a quick readback? That's a great way for me to ensure some alignment there. So I think that's a great way to end a conversation, is with that quick readback, that 2-second effort to make sure we're aligned. The other way is if you're talking about something difficult or hard, I would end that, if I've been talking, this time and presenting this, with an open-ended, earnest question to give them an opportunity to properly respond.
How do you know when it's time to just cut it off, meaning there's no coming back from the damage of the relationship?
Yeah, I try to stop that before I get there. I had given the example earlier with my son where, some days I feel like it's his goal to see if he can get mom over the edge. And he's a great kid, but sometimes you're just like, man, I don't know what you woke up with today. I try to not let myself get to the point where now we're in this conversation and now we're past that point of being able to come off that ledge.
Okay, obviously, this is all about leadership. And one of the things that I love and have heard you say that at the core of many of our life problems is a leadership problem.
Mm-hmm.
And leadership, when it comes to friendship, relationships, you can coach and bring people forward, but at a point in time, there is no coming back. You break up with your
I
high
see.
school sweetheart, the employee doesn't work out. There's probably a moment where
Sure.
you have to take a postmortem look at this is what happened, and there's now no going forward.
Yeah, no, thank you for that clarification. I think in those moments, I am still ending that relationship through the lens of ownership. That's what's hard for people. Even when we get to a point where, hey, I'll use firing someone as an example. If I'm firing someone, we have gotten to the point now where we have met that threshold you're describing. I'm still taking ownership of that. I'm still looking at that situation and saying, man, there's a bunch of things I could have done that maybe could have avoided the situation. Now we're here. I still have to take ownership of what happened next. I have to take ownership of what the rest of the team needs. This is a relationship that can no longer continue for X, Y, and Z reasons. Despite the fact that I recognize how I contributed to this problem, we have now hit that threshold where my effort to support you or help you is now detracting from the energy I need to be giving to the rest of my team. So that's when I start to define that line. Lathan Jocko wrote a chapter in Dichotomy of Leadership called When to Mentor, When to Fire. And that was the idea that for most situations, mentorship and leadership is the solution. That doesn't mean you don't get to those thresholds where you have to end those relationships, and that's the last of it. But I can still do that through the final lens of ownership. Hey, this is my fault that we didn't get to where we needed to be, and I'm sorry that this is what needs to happen next, but we can't continue in this fashion.
I will see you January 5th through 7th at Palm Springs. Tell us a little bit about the Women's Assembly.
The Women's Assembly is a 2-day, we run a free webinar every month that you can come check us out and participate
I
in.
have.
Yes, you have taught on there before, which is so fun. The Women's Assembly that we do that's live is a 2-day leadership conference. We do early morning workouts, so you get that discipline. Optional, I would highly recommend it. And then we spend 2 days of intense leadership development. What's unique about the Women's Assembly compared to other events we do at Echelon Front is that we bring in awesome guests like yourself. We have 4 keynote speakers coming to this one with unique perspectives and experiences to share. We've got 4 women that are sharing in these micro interviews. And then we go deep into the principles of extreme ownership and leave people with some applicable things they can go back and take into the world.
I highly recommend it. I love the Women's Assembly. And what I really love about it is I'm very adverse to a lot of woo-woo. No offense, I don't want to talk about essential oils, even if they're great. I want to know, and I want to get down to the nitty-gritty. I run businesses. I run a family. I want to know how to get the best out of the teams I'm running and, frankly, myself. And it's extraordinary. So I can't wait to see you, and it's just going to be a blast.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. Appreciate it. And I'm excited to have you back this year. I know our audience is desperate to have you back, so it's going to be awesome.
Jamie Cochran, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.